ხელიეწერება ჩრდილოატლანტიკური ხელშეკრულების ორგანიზაციასა და საქართველოს მთავრობას შორის ნატოსა და ნატოს პერსონალური სტატუსის შესახებ წერილების გაცვლას. საქართველოს მთავრობის სახელით შეთანხმებას ხელს აწერს საგარეო საქმეთა მინისტრი მიხეილ ჯანელიძე. ჩრდილოატლანტიკური ხელშეკრულების ორგანიზაციის სახელით შეთანხმებას ხელს აწერს გენერალური მდივნის მოადგილე Gottemoeller. Exchange of letters between the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the government of Georgia on the status of NATO and NATO personnel is being signed. On behalf of the government of Georgia, the agreement is being signed by Minister of Foreign Affairs Mikheil Janelidzem. On behalf of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the agreement is being signed by Deputy Secretary General Gottemoeller.
Let me extend my greetings. Welcome. I'm extremely glad that today I've been given opportunity to host the Deputy Secretary General of NATO, Ms. Gottemoeller. Ms. Rose, this is your first visit to Georgia in this rank, but you've been supporting Georgia very strongly for a long period of time. You are our long-standing friend and you've had a very close cooperation with us, and for that I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to you for this friendship and support. This meeting of ours was very interesting and productive. Actually, we have touched upon all important aspects of Georgia's integration to NATO, including our dialogue and practical cooperation with the alliance. And it is important that the session of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly this year will be hosted by Georgia. There were only very few cases of holding such meetings in partner countries, and the last one was in Bulgaria. Ms. Gottemoeller has once again confirmed today that the alliance will support Georgia in its process of preparation to join NATO. We are extremely fortunate that Ms. Rose today attended a plenary session of the Parliamentary Assembly, and she sent very important messages to the audience and answered very important questions concerning Georgia on the plenary session. 3 months ago there was a meeting in Brussels, and from there we also received very important political messages to support aspiring country and open door politics of NATO. We also discussed today practical cooperation of NATO and Georgia, including implementation of the substantive package, and we have really special progress in this direction, and we'll do our best to further empower defense capacities of Georgia. That will be an additional step towards Georgia's prospect towards NATO. The joint train and equip program center has been operating in Georgia. That was visited by Ms. Gottemoeller today, and also a school that makes its special contribution to the employment and professional development of the employees, and more than 30 experts of the alliance work in Georgia now, which is another demonstration of a very strong cooperation between Georgia and alliance. Such a strong cooperation has prompted that we need to further improve legislative basis and framework for our cooperation. And today I, with Ms. Gottemoeller, have signed an updated agreement between the government of Georgia and NATO on the NATO personnel in Georgia. Status of NATO and NATO personnel, and this is another demonstration of NATO's support to Georgia's aspiration to NATO and Georgia's contribution to strengthening the common Euro-Atlantic security. Our militaries stand hand in hand with NATO forces in Afghanistan, and we make our contribution to the regional safety. May I once again assure you that Georgia, as a future member of the alliance, and I want to underline Ms. Gottemuller's words at the plenary session today, that Georgia is a special aspirant, the special country that aspires to NATO, and I'd like to once again confirm that we will do our best to continue being a very special partner of NATO and to turn our aspirations into the further strengthening of the alliance. This is what we are doing today and what we'll continue doing in future. Today we've also touched upon the Black Sea security issues. We welcome the alliance decision to strengthen its military presence in the region, as this step will further strengthen Georgia's security as well, on the top of strengthening regional security. And in closure, may I mention that Georgia's integration with the NATO alliance will continue very successfully. This process is very well depicted in Jens Stoltenberg's words that more NATO in Georgia and more Georgia into the NATO, and we've been seeing this during the last 2 days in the situation, in the period when all political leaders of all NATO alliance countries are visiting Georgia. These are the politicians that take decisions in relation to the alliance and in relation to the Georgia's further integration to NATO. And it was very important for them to see the progress that Georgia has achieved. They eyewitnessed the situation, and they have seen if the Georgia is ready to take further steps towards the integration. So once again, many thanks to Ms. Gottemoeller for her support, and I'm giving the floor to her. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'm truly delighted to be in Tbilisi today, and I thank you for your warm welcome. I thank all your colleagues for their warm welcome. Georgia is hosting the spring meeting of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, as the Minister mentioned, and we are very grateful for your hospitality, both today, in my case, and throughout the weekend for the Parliamentary Assembly. I wanted to mention that I did go to the JTEC today for the purpose of meeting there with the Minister of Defense, but also to lay a wreath in honor of those Georgian soldiers who have given their lives in defense of Georgia and in support of our common security concerns. I wanted to mention that for me, an American citizen, although I'm here as a representative of the NATO alliance and the NATO institution as Deputy Secretary General, but in America, this is a very special day today. This is Memorial Day, where we honor our war dead. And so it was a special opportunity for me to be at the JTEC and have an opportunity to lay a wreath in honor of those who paid the ultimate price from the Georgian Armed Forces. I also wanted to note that NATO will soon be joined by a new member, and that is Montenegro. They were also at the meeting of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, I noted this morning, but last week we welcomed Prime Minister Markovic to the Heads of State and Government meeting at NATO headquarters in Brussels. Montenegro's presence there demonstrated NATO's continued commitment to the open door policy, which is a very relevant notion for Georgia. It sent a positive signal to other aspirant countries like Georgia that we will be raising the flag of Montenegro soon over NATO headquarters. In fact, that will come up on the 7th of June when Montenegro finally is able to deposit its accession instrument to the Washington Treaty in Washington, D.C. on the 5th of June. So we will raise the flags over NATO headquarters, and we hope, I say flags on purpose because we have two at the moment places for flags, one the old headquarters and one the new headquarters, but we are in the process of moving. In any event, it's a proud moment for NATO and a proud moment for Montenegro, and it is a positive signal to aspirant countries such as Georgia. These are some of the issues that I discussed today with members of Parliament from across the Alliance and well beyond among the partner countries who have gathered here in Tbilisi. We are very grateful to Georgia's contributions to the Alliance and for the service of Georgia's soldiers. Georgia is the biggest non-NATO contributor to our Resolute Support mission in Afghanistan, among other activities. Georgia is also contributing to the NATO response force and NATO exercises. Through our cooperation over so many years, Georgian forces have become more capable and more interoperable than ever before. In 2014, NATO leaders agreed a substantial package of assistance in order to strengthen Georgia's defense and its ability to work side by side with NATO forces, and in order to help Georgia prepare for NATO membership. You are a committed aspirant country. Georgia is committed to the ambitious reform path that it has started, and we are delivering on our promise to help Georgia. Foreign Minister Janelidzem and I just signed an agreement that supports the strengthening of NATO-Georgian relations. It may seem rather technical, but we are expanding the legal arrangements, for the presence of personnel from NATO and partner countries who work in Georgia on the substantial NATO-Georgia package and other mutually agreed activities. So from that perspective, it may be a technical agreement, but it is a very, very important one. This is further deepening our relations. In short, NATO will continue to count on Georgia, and we will continue to support you. You are committed to us, and we are committed to you. So thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question to our guest. I wonder what messages you can send to the aspiring countries after the summit in Brussels.
I already mentioned the question was, what message can I send to the aspiring countries after this meeting this past week in Brussels? And I will say, I've already mentioned that Montenegro's entry into the alliance as our newest member is in itself a significant symbol of NATO's continuing open door policy. And I want to stress as a point that the door is open to the aspirant countries, and we are very pleased to have Montenegro as our newest member, and will continue to work with all the aspirant countries to move forward in the direction of NATO membership. The second point I would like to stress is it is an important principle that countries should have the opportunity to choose their security arrangements for themselves. It cannot be something that is dictated from the outside. NATO does not dictate to countries whether they want to become a member of the alliance or not. We work with countries who are interested in working with us, And we see absolutely no contradiction for countries to seek other paths for their security. So I did want to stress that point as well. Not everyone aspires to join NATO, but nevertheless, we have some countries such as Sweden and Finland, whom we work with very, very closely, and they are among our closest partners, like Georgia, but they do not aspire to be NATO members. They have chosen a somewhat different security path, and that's the important point. Countries must have the right to choose their own security path. They must choose their own security arrangements for themselves.
Georgian public broadcaster, I have questions to both of you concerning the decision to strengthen the Black Sea security. What benefit Georgia may yield as a result of this decision? Today we are witnessing that the Black Sea is quite strongly militarized as a result of the Russian aggression and as a result of the activities of the Russian Federation. Therefore, we welcome those activities that will make sure that Georgia is better protected and better secured. And the strengthened presence, greater presence of NATO on the Black Sea will be oriented towards the better security for Georgia. Stability on the Black Sea is very important for us. The Black Sea has to be an economically active sea. The Black Sea is important for us, both for the Euro-Atlantic and European integration, and of course, primarily for ensuring our national security. Therefore, we participate in this cooperation. This was mentioned first on the Warsaw Summit last year. We expressed our preparedness to cooperate on the Black Sea security issues, and may I once again say that we welcome the NATO activities and the steps to be taken forward. The process is still underway. The agreements yet have to be drafted, but this readiness for cooperation has been already demonstrated by Georgia.
Thank you. I don't have very much to add to the minister's words, except to say that we value, of course, Georgia's experience as a Black Sea littoral state. This is basically a region that Georgia knows very well, and so it helps with NATO's situational awareness to have good lines of communication open with Georgia on Black Sea security matters. And as to the rest, I just refer to the minister's words. I could not have said it better myself.
მოგესალმებით ტელეკომპანია რუსთავი 2 მე შეკითხვა მექნება საპარლამენტო ასამბლეის ხდომის ფარგლებში საკმაოდ ბევრი ისაუბრეს საქართველოს
At the parliamentary assembly meeting, a lot has been said about the possibility to grant map to Georgia. Are you considering any possibility of granting any alternative Georgia, alternative to map?
No. No. I don't really have anything to add, except I will say what I have just said a moment ago, that NATO welcomes that Georgia is an aspirant country, and we welcome the opportunity to work with Georgia toward membership in NATO. I will say that Georgia is in the midst of government reform process and also reform of the defense ministries and security ministries, and those reforms we encourage very much, and they are reforms that should continue as you are working in the direction of eventual NATO membership.
I'd like to also answer this question. First of all, I have to say that at the Warsaw Summit, one very clear message was sent that Georgia has all practical instruments necessary for our preparation for the membership. MAP is a procedure which is developed by the alliance as one of the stages, and for Georgia we think that MAP is the part of the ultimate political decision, but until this ultimate political decision is taken, the political decision that Georgia will become a NATO member was taken in 2008 in Bucharest. As for the final decision, MAP will be the part of the final decision, and before that we will do everything to make Georgia the country which efficiently utilizes all practical instruments in its hands. It was very clearly stated in the declaration that Georgia very effectively uses all instruments and has achieved very good progress in the implementation of all instruments and in the course of implementing reforms, be it democratic reforms or economic and social reforms, which are provided by the annual action plan, and also the reforms under the NATO-Georgia substantive package, which is related to the Georgia's heightening its defense capabilities and greater harmonization with the NATO standards. These two directions make our country stronger at the stage of implementing reforms and at the stage of integration. And I'd like to welcome one very important political support which is related to granting MAP to Georgia. Thank you very much.